That's it. Here we go. Welcome in on what I call, obviously, IG Live. The Actor Overcomes show business scenarios and ask me anything. And so I'm going to go off of this first question. And if anybody else here has a question or scenario they want to type in, please do. But I'm going to go off of Tony's. It says, how do you decide what is good for networking and exposure versus an unpaid gig? However, I'm just going to address this in two ways. I think that when you discuss, unfortunately, Tony, an unpaid gig, it's an exceptionally broad question because it will always lend itself, in my mind, since I'm such an areas of industry kind of guy, I would first of all want to address, does the unpaid gig that you would be passing up to go to, let's say, a networking event, such as an award show or such as a film festival or something like that, the unpaid gig, I would have to be much more clear as to what type of gig it is, and does that unpaid gig fall into really what your focus is as a performer. If you're giving up an unpaid on-camera speaking role and that's what your focus is, fine. If you're giving up an unpaid spot to be a stand-up and you don't care about stand-up, then I don't think that I would make much of it. But without any specificity of how important the unpaid gig is, such as, let's say, a role in a student film, there's an example, versus a networking opportunity, because you can take that film and use it for marketing purposes, which is a form of exposure. However, if you had to measure, let's say, I would break this down more as unknown versus known. As the old thing, bird in the hand, two in the bush, right? So if you were looking at maybe doing a student film, which is unpaid, I'm not going to go down the non-union road, but it could obviously also be, it could also just be it could be a SPA agreement in which it's deferred and also be no pay, or it could be non-union no pay. But if you were to look at what could be with a potential film or something that isn't shot yet you also have the opportunity to do something that we're going to define as exposure, trying to use both of your scenarios, that is a guaranteed form, then I think you'd have to really bring it down to, for the exposure part, to choose to do that instead of the thing that maybe isn't necessarily, as you'd say in Stockland, realized yet. I would have to look at who is going to see me at the exposure thing. Is the exposure thing some live stage thing that I'm going to be at? Am I going to be on camera that I can capture and then also use for marketing? Is what kind of audience and how large is the audience that's going to see me on the exposure thing versus, let's say, what I feel is a really terrific role in a SPA agreement. And I try to give sometimes answers that are not obviously black and white answers to the worst scenario and then sometimes to the best scenario. And in this case, if I were to say you had the opportunity to go be someplace exposure-wise where a lot of people in your profession, let's say on the other side of the desk, representatives, casting, producers, directors, might be that you'd have the opportunity to meet versus doing a really terrific lead role in a short film project, and they were on the same day and it was only one day, it would be very, very difficult for me to pass up the exposure networking opportunity, but I don't like using the word exposure for networking, because networking to me is about engaging with people. Exposure is about either being seen or having a tool by which you can then expose yourself from a marketing standpoint. So to me, they're two opposite things. That's why the and in between is difficult for me. But I really think it comes down to how much of one of them is more of a guarantee than the other, and or how many or how much in perpetuity legs could the project that is unpaid potentially provide you. And a lot of that, Tony, has to do with where you're at in your career. I mean, if you have a terrific demo reel or you feel great about your demo reel, then getting more demo material might not be as much of a priority as getting the chance to meet a showrunner from a TV show that you want to be on. This is why one has to look at their own what I always tend to call, and yes, it's a metaphor I've been using for years because it's accurate, and I'm not going to stop using it because of the state of this country. But it tends to come down to how sharp are the tools in your tool belt, and or how many bullets you have in your gun. Like, how strong is what you have versus what you're trying to get? Where do you feel like you're lacking or weakness applies? Because there's always going to be another networking event that you can find your way to. The question is going to become, if you happen to meet somebody at that event and you want them to look at your demo reel, how strong is your reel? So there are times in my career where I would have made both those decisions. I would have decided to go with the project based on the role and the material I was going to get out of it to have in perpetuity usage for my demo reel. And there are times that I would have chosen a networking scenario in which I knew that if I met somebody of value, I had something for them to reference or see or show them that was going to make me, as I always like to say, very easy to credibly consider. Credible consideration is all that being an actor is. 2 words. Has been for 100 years and will continue to be. All this profession asks of anyone on the other side who is either in casting, representation, or employment is consider me, which is why for your consideration was always the colloquialism that the Oscars have used. So hopefully in a very roundabout, long, sort of almost 7-minute way, I have tried to address all of those for you. Someone please type in something new for me. Give me a new one. You guys are here. Fire away. There's 5 of you. Bring it. Come on. Come on, Sheeta. Come on, Aaron. Come on, Michael. Somebody give me a question. Somebody give me a scenario, because this is open forum time and I don't come with anything pre-prepared. So I am looking for y'all to provide me with the content. There's got to be something going on in your world that you would like to ask. And I don't want to have too much dead air, so hit me with something. Come on, y'all. Come on now. Bring it. Come on. Come on. Oh, I should say this. I will say this. This has actually come up a lot recently. Maybe it's a nature of where we are in this profession. But I am probably very close to moving on to my 47th representative. Holy shitballs. And this comes up quite a bit. And what comes up is, how do you leave somebody? Changing representations is a piece of cake. If you have someone to change to, it can be emotional and it's uncomfortable and it's all of those things. But at the end of the day, it's a 3 or 4 sentence email to your point person at your representative location. And that is always, thank you very much, professional respect and adoration. You can mix in something else if you consider that person to be actually a friend of yours. And I have many friends today who are former representatives. But I feel like that our time together as client and representative has run its course, and I am going to move on. And here's the key. You also have to make sure that you say, as of said date, just pick a date, 24, 48, 72 hours in advance, I will officially cease being a client of, and say the name of the company. That is how you and then just simply say, please reply to confirm receipt. I really appreciate it. Professionally, whatever, however you want to, sign off. But at the end of the day, that's as difficult and or as hard as it should be to leave one representative and go to another. Of course, you should have already confirmed all of this with your new representative, that this is what you're going to be doing, this is the date that you're picking, and when that date comes, whether it's 24 hours later, 48 hours later, or a week later, on that day, you have to make sure that your ass goes into your profiles and changes your representation information. You can't let that wane. It's a metaphorical, analogous, and a literal line in the sand. So that's one of the things that I'm kind of in the process of, and a dear friend of mine is also going through, that I've done a ton, but I also know that it's particularly scary for a lot of folks, or uncomfortable for a lot of folks, when you've never done it before, or maybe you've only done it a couple times. And hey, listen, I've cried in agent's office. I've been through all those emotions. I know what it is. But sometimes you guys, it's just time to go. Sometimes it's just time to separate. It's just what it is. That's life. Okay, now I gave you guys a whole other 3.5 minutes of mixing that in to come up with telling me something. Come on now, because otherwise I'll just go ahead and end the live. I don't want to keep you guys on if you don't have any questions. So I'm gonna wait another minute, 1 minute. I'm gonna wait 1 minute, and if y'all don't type something in and hit me with something, then I'm gonna end this, because this is just a show business scenario live. I could go over 15 minutes if we had a bunch of great stuff, and I can shorten it by 15 minutes without stuff. So it's totally cool by me. I'm chilling. It's Friday, and I don't want to hold anybody up if you don't have anything specific. But I'm hoping in the next minute that Aaron or Michael or somebody gives me something. Wait, seems like, okay, going through. Okay, hang on, Mickey. Oh, okay, hang on. Mickey, I didn't know you're here. Good to see you, love. Questions are not going through. Well, that would just be your connection, Sheeta. So, awesome. Let me see. Let me get Mickey's first, because Mickey's has popped up. I don't see CD. Okay. Oh, okay. Hang on. There's Mickey. All right, I got him now. You're welcome, Tony. Okay, Sheeta, I got yours. Here we go. Are procedural clips the most important way to get casts on TV? I mean, to put on an actor's access profile. I don't want to use the phraseology cast. I never want to jump from no audition to a job. So I'm always going to go with to create a job interview on audition. Do you need to have actual television material as your demo reel to get an audition for episodic drama procedural material? No, you don't. Is it helpful? Sure, of course it is. But to believe that you have to have something that is what I would call the exact area of industry to create the possibility of getting an audition for that area of industry, no. But it does depend on the area of industry. Yes, it would be difficult to have nothing but, 2 minutes worth of, 3 or 4 different scenes that are all crying and episodic drama and expect that demo to get you some half-hour sitcom auditions. That would be a little silly. But you could certainly have a couple of scenes, Sheeta, from an independent film or some demo material that you self-produced that was procedural oriented on your demo reel, and have that particular demo and that material be able to create a co-star audition for television. No question. It depends on you, your type, the timing, the casting person, but the vibe and essence of the material is applicable to the material you desire, but it's not absolute and literal. So theatrical work of any kind that's really good can get you theatrical auditions. I tell you what, I'll leave it like that. How about that? Michael, yours is next. CD or associate, target who or when? Both all the time. Just separate them by a week. Again, let's just pretend you're sending to an office that has 2 casting directors, an associate, and an assistant. Okay, it's 4 people. So out of the month, send one to one of them week 1, one to one of them week 2, one to one of them week 3, one to the other one week 4, and then wait 6 weeks, wash, rinse, repeat. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, you hit everybody in the office. You never know who's going to get it. You never know what's going to be on their mind when they get it. There's no black and white answer. There's no formula to this, but the key formula to this is you hit everybody and you hit them all in the same order, 6 weeks apart in a casting office. There you go. And you just have to keep doing that. Okay, Mickey, I'm finally down to you, girlfriend. Whee! Why can't we pay agents outright instead of this submission system where we constantly get rejected? Ooh, Mickey, I might need some clarity on that. Why can't we pay agents outright instead of this submission system where okay. Do you mean spend money on being submitted by your agent by giving them money versus having a third-party casting interface? Just write for me at the bottom if that's what you mean, Mickey, so I know. I think that's what you're saying is, Why can't we, if we have to pay for a third party, what if we put them on a retainer? That very nice. Well done. That's because, very simply, a lawyer is a professional service provider. A representative represents you with regards to employment. So the difference in the two is labor law, and that's why you can't do it. Great question, Mickey. But that's why representatives, just literally the definition of someone being a representative in this profession, they're representing you for employment, whereas a lawyer is representing you for a professional service as it relates to the law. It's not about you being hired or fired. It's about adjudicating a legal dispute, be it civil or criminal. So that's where you fall into the difference and why we have the labor laws and the guidelines we have with regards to whether somebody is a SAG-AFTRA franchise agent or whether or not somebody now is an ATA agent. Whether they use a general service agreement or whether they use a SAG-AFTRA contract, they are still representing you through the process of what we call labor and employment, and therefore paying them like you would pay a headhunter or like you would pay a lawyer or somebody is simply against the labor law. And that's the answer to the question. Great question, Mickey. Thank you. Yay! I got through all those. I'm not sure why my phone wasn't keeping up with telling me you guys had submitted, but Cassandra, if you have an issue or a question, please fire it forward. We got another good 13 minutes before I stop, so I'm hoping you guys will give me another one. Come on. Those are good ones. I like them all. We got exposure, we got networking, we got casting submissions, we got electronic versus paying agents scenarios. Love it. Bring it. Come on. Maybe my phone's on a little bit of a delay, but I think maybe if somebody types something in and just go, hey, I'm trying to send, just let me see. Sometimes, the connection gets a little glitchy between all of us wherever we are in the world. Can you please talk emotions and roles? Okay, and that's funny, Sheeta. I'm going to say this back to you, love, with a smile and tongue in cheek. Can you please be a hell of a lot more specific than that? I don't exactly know what you mean by emotions in roles. That's really broad from a craft show standpoint. So I need you to be just a skosh more specific for me. I know I don't talk a lot about the craft and the art. I love it. I have an entire methodology that I invented years ago that I call my 10 questions. So I'm more than happy. Super Daddy Man has rolled up. So if you can, Sheeta, just be a little more specific about what you mean by talk emotions in roles. I need you to be just a little more specific on that. And again, Cassandra or anybody else, if you have a question, please type it in. I can multitask. I can handle 2 or 3 things at once because I'm still pondering and waiting for Sheeta to clarify talk emotions in roles. So please feel free to type in any question, any scenario you have going on in your actor life right now that you just want some really clear, simple, and very direct, that's me, insight on. And Allie has made it in the house. Whee! All right, guys, we officially have 11 minutes left. Okay, how to nourish them for roles when you have to tone them down in real life. Oh, so what you're asking me, Sheeta, is how do you, when providing a job interview known as an audition, how do you get yourself to be more emotional when you spend so much of your life keeping the lid on your emotions? I believe that's sort of what you just said, I believe. And while we could spend hours on that question, the truth of the matter is, the answer to that is what training is for. That is what learning, it's more than psychology, because I was a failed double psychology major, but it's more than that. I mean, this is training. All of us have what I call a baseline idle. I kind of use it like a car metaphor, how a car idles, and some people's idles are higher than others. This is one of the reasons why I laugh about, so much of my career, in that I was an improv complete goofball stand-up comic who has built a career doing hour episodic drama. But there's a reason for that, because one of the nicknames I've had in my life is Mr. Intense. And that's not because I'm a bad guy. It's just because I idle in sort of a direct, in your face kind of way, and yet I'm incredibly chill, cool, idiot Pisces who would just rather play guitar. But that's the difference in knowing yourself, knowing your essence, and learning your craft and your system for what it takes for you to spend your life living a certain way at a 2 or 3 emotionally versus when you have to go to a 7 or 8 for an audition. And whether that's me going to 7 or 8 for being milquetoast, which by the way is true. I don't live much of my life in a state of milquetoast, and yet this face, Joe White dude, can get an audition where I'm supposed to be like vanilla and boring. It's the same for me, Sheeta. Backing down or being less edgy can be just as difficult for me as maybe somebody who needs to amp up, who keeps a lid on a certain degree of emotions. So the answer to the question, honestly, isn't psychology. It is literally just craft and training yourself to know how to turn yourself on this way, how to turn yourself down that way, how to wrinkle and quirk that way. That's what it is. And then, of course, as you would hear me say in my 2-hour audio program that I built with Carolyn Berry called The Actor's Guide to Getting the Job, you would hear me talk about the fact, and then it's also related to what area of industry. Because me being psycho angry isn't the same in daytime television as it wouldn't be in a studio feature film, and it wouldn't be in an episodic drama and or an independent film. Those are all 4 different forms, likely versions of being psychotically angry. So it applies to the medium as well, without question. Same as half hour. There are forms of being broader funny in certain types of half-hour platforms and less so in others. Or as I like to call it sometimes, the difference between Adam Sandler funny and Vince Vaughn funny, or Dennis Leary funny. One is biting and wry, and the other is kind of goofy like a silly young Labrador. It's just different kinds of funny. Okay, other question. Come on, y'all. Bring it. Let me see if I missed one. We got Allie in the house. Sugar Daddy. Hey, Super Daddy man, do me a favor and pop your name in there so I know your name by name. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it. Again, if you came into this late, this will be on the grid for a little while on IG Live, so follow me, D. Kevin E, and then also subscribe to the YouTube channel, D. Kevin E. I got 7 minutes left. Waiting for a question. Come on, Aaron. Come on, Michael. Come on, Tony. Somebody hit me with another one. Come on, Mickey. Bring it. Because if y'all don't have anything, I don't want to bore you. And I don't want to take up your Friday afternoon or early evening if you guys don't have something to throw me. But I'm hoping out of 5, 6, 7 people, you guys have at least one more showbiz scenario, one more actor question that you have. One more? Anybody got one? Hit me with it. Come on. So I'm only going to give you a minute, and then I'm going to let you all go because I do not want to waste anybody's time at all. This is an open forum. I'm going to do more of these because I think it services our community well. It also services folks of different levels of their career, different geographical locations of their career, and also levels of training, gender, ethnicity, etc. So this is a lot of what I used to do at the Actors Network. I am going to do one set subject a week on IG Live, and then I'm going to do 2 or 3 show business scenarios. So I know you guys have questions that pop up all the time. Okay, so I got 2, and it looks like based on these, I'm going to be able to finish these 2. And so, Tony, I'm going to start with yours. Thank you for the clarification. How do you reinvent yourself as you age? Now, I'm going to say this back to you, and then you're going to think about it for a second. You're going to hit me back, and then I'm going to address Cassandra's. So when you say reinvent yourself, I want to address what we define as reinvent, because we have 2 ways of looking at that to me. Reinventing yourself could mean that you're actually wanting to switch what you've been known for and work on being known for something new, again, like comedy versus drama or stand-up versus this, or that would be like, take someone like Will Ferrell. If so, for some reason he stopped being of desire, how would he reinvent himself? So I think sometimes that's the choice of area of industry you wish to focus on. And then what I would further say, Tony, is one of the ways you might actually would choose to do it would once again come from training, in terms of the fact that you either really specifically take a really tiny small angle on what you're known for, coupled with perhaps a change of appearance. But it's still going to come down to the work. It's going to come down to how you render yourself in the eyes of the audience, casting community, producing community, hiring community, who's known you one way versus the way that, oh, started as a leading man. Okay, well, that's not to me reinventing yourself. That's yourself pushing you into a new category. I know it may sound like semantics, but it's not, because one is something you would choose to do. The other is something that you would react to existing. So going from a leading man to a character actor really just comes down to, first of all, internal decision that you understand that's what you are. And then to me, it would really come down to how you view breakdowns, how you view projects, and what you choose to push people to see you for. So it's not, to me, it's not reinventing yourself. It's just being crystal clear. You have changed categories and being focused on things that you understand fall into that category versus what you may have when you were 23 or 24. So that's a much easier answer for me. So let me go back to Cassandra's. How can you get a rep to honor that you have other creative projects that may make you not available for every acting project they submit you for? Great question, Cassandra. This is awesome. For example, you do music, also act. Yes, because that's going to go to the old triple threat thing that I did as an IG Live some time ago. This is a great question to wrap up today's showbiz scenarios with. Thank you, Cassandra. First and foremost is this. Because if you were a singer, dancer, actor, which of course is the old triple threat from stage, but no matter. What if you're actor, stand-up comic, host? It doesn't make any difference. Or, yes, you're an actor who's also a musician. This is my point about this, Cassandra, and one of the things I'm going to say is a little bit of an answer, and the other thing I'm going to say is based on relationship, okay? Because the bottom line is when you start dating someone, when you start going out with somebody, there's always these conversations that kind of create parameters and boundaries. Whether those parameters and boundaries are short-term in terms of us getting to know each other, or whether or not those parameters are long-term in terms of the fact, hey, Adrian, in terms of the fact that we would or would not want to raise children, for example. So when you talk about the fact that you have musical interests, and that sometimes affects your availability, the bottom line is, number one, Cassandra, and if you didn't do this when you started, please go back and do it now. Have a conversation with your representative now. But this is something that should come up, in my opinion, when you first sit down with someone. You need to always make sure that your representative understands the scope of your life and focus. 100%. 100%. Again, by the way, theatrical representatives and commercial representatives will sometimes get frustrated because somebody's unavailable for a pilot audition because they're shooting a commercial. These things happen even within acting. So one job can conflict with the other in an entirely different area of industry. But the bottom line is when it goes outside of an acting job and it goes to what we would call, or what I call, other artistic careers. That's what I call that. This is something you need to establish right off the bat when you sit down with a representative and say, listen, sometimes I go tour with my band and I'm gone for 2 weeks. But to me, with all respect, Cassandra, I don't see this as any different than booking out or a vacation. I'm about to leave the country for 3 weeks. Well, if I was going to leave the country for 3 weeks because I need to get the hell out of the U.S. and take a break, or I was going to be on the road with my band for 3 weeks, the bottom line is I'm booking out for 3 weeks. So booking out an unavailable should be something that's a given in our profession. It should be something that's a given with regards to your representative in our profession. But to avoid the ego irritation that it feels like you're describing, this is still something that when you sit down with someone, they need to understand the scope of you as an artist in your lifestyle. And if it's something you don't feel you were exceptionally clear about right off the bat, then it's something you need to sit down and discuss now. And to finish this up, all I can say is, if this is like a relationship, right? If this is one of those things that either when you first sit down with somebody or 6 months into dating them, being represented by them or something else that they find untenable or have a problem with, guess what you got to do? You got to go. That's one of the many reasons why I have, for so long, I've had so many representatives. Oh Lord, folks, my man Chris Gardner is coming to the house. Chriser, you came in with like a minute to go, my brother. But lovely that you dropped in. That's one of my oldest friends in life. We met the summer that I moved to Los Angeles, and Chris has been Dean Martin in the Rat Pack in in Vegas. So it's good to have you here, my man. We're about to wrap up, but yes, Cassandra, that's just a relationship and a scope scenario. And so all you have to do is make crystal clear that that's a part of your life and that's important to you as an artist, and it's a way that you make money. And the bottom line is sometimes you're going to be available because of music. And if that person has a problem with that, with all respect, it's no different than somebody having a problem with the fact you smoke, or you have an occasional cigar, or once in a while you get drunk, or you feel your religion needs to be a little bit larger part of your life and it doesn't for your partner. And so you part ways. That's one of the reasons why you sometimes leave a representative and or why they let you go. But you do need to find somebody which you have harmony with on every level, or it's going to be a tough climb and they will just slowly but surely no longer really work that hard for you. Okay, guys, I'm at almost 31 minutes. That's our time for a Friday afternoon. Adrienne, thanks for coming in. You guys make sure and understand this will be on the grid, IG Live, The Kevin E. You can go watch the full thing there, full 30 minutes. It will then eventually get pushed over to my YouTube channel, so be sure that that you subscribe there. Again, I will do two or three of these every week that are free form, Ask Me Anything. So think of your stuff, get your questions down. Love to have 6 or 7 we're able to rock and roll with right off the bat. Bingo, bango. All right, guys. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.